Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new tutorial series on object-oriented programming using C++. So in this tutorial series we'll be talking about how to write object-oriented programs in C++ programming language. This tutorial series is targeted for beginners. In the later on series we'll be talking more on the generic programming like templates, and we'll also try to cover some of the salient features and usages of the new C++ standard which started at C++ 14, which is lambda functions, so that the programmers will be highly productive in their future endeavors. So I welcome all you to all for this tutorial series. So we'll start by talking about a little bit about a background of C++ programming language. The C++ programming language was started by Bjorn Storstrup something like 20 years ago, who is the BDFL, Benevolent Dictator for Life, and C++ standard with something called C with classes. The word class is used for writing object-oriented programs in C++. So we start by how popular C++ really is. This is the Tiobe Index for February 2019, which is the latest, and as you can see, the C++ is in the top 4 as of February 2019. So C++ was supposed to be the third spot after C. Now Python has been taken over by C++. So many people like a simple programming language, but the advantage of C++ or Python is C++ can be many times faster than Python. C++ is a compiled language. C++ is a very generic programming language, but data declarative language, meaning we declare the data type called int, float, long, double, string, char. But in Python there is no declaration, and Python is an interpreted language. Coming to the top programming language called Java, the advantage of C++ over Java is C++ is actually consumes less memory footprint for the same program that has been written both in C++ and Java. So that's the another advantage of C++ with respect to all other programming language, because C++ being a compiled language, it's neither interpreted nor running on any virtual machine like Java or C Sharp, which is C Sharp is from Microsoft, and Java is now from Oracle. So that's why C++ is actually widely used by many programmers who want absolute performance with respect to lower memory footprint. This is very much essential requirement, for example writing GUIs, where the GUI application is actually scaling every year. So whichever the application is actually scaling very frequently, especially in GUI format, C++ is actually provides the much faster user interface. The user interfaces will be much more active, much more uh, interactive with respect to the user, because it will be highly responsive. In the sense, for example, you click one slide bar, click a button, it does, the functionality gets kicked off very fast, and it consumes very less memory footprint compared to Java, which with respect to Java Swing or Java FX. That's where C++ is more advantageous for standard application development with respect to desktop applications when it is concerned. So C++ also can be used for writing mobile applications, for example using Qt framework. The Qt framework has been updated to provide Android and iOS support. So that's where C++ comes in very handy if you're looking for widely cross-platform, which covers all the operating systems like Windows, Mac, Linux, Android, and iOS. There are many game libraries available, like most common is like SFML, and then Cocos 2DX, which is used for game framework, which is very fast across mobile devices as well. And C++ has one of the widely available GUI toolkits like Qt, that is more famous in the professional environment, and more like general purpose like GTK MM is available, which has a C++ bindings. Then comes WX provides a native rendering on all OSs like Windows, Mac, Linux. So what WX is widely famous in the open source world, and there are some other GUI toolkit for FLTK. So C++ provides a wide variety of libraries. Most famous is the Boost library, which used to provide multi-threading, but multi-threading is now more inherent available from C++11, and by C++14 standard, it has most of the multi-threading features default available in the C++ GNU GCC compiler collection toolkit. So for as far as the Windows is concerned, we can download MinGW from SourceForge. I will try to provide the links directly so that people can directly download and use it in the below links when the in the YouTube channel. So coming to the version, the currently available is GCC 8.1.0, and it is available both in 64 and 32-bit format, but each format has two types available. One is known as SJLJ and dwarf. SJLJ stands for single jump, long jump. This is the standard how exceptions are handled at runtime by the C++ program which is compiled into executable. So it is said that SGLJ works better on Windows, so we will be going for SGLJ, and depending upon the requirement, someone can use 32-bit or 64-bit. As far as the information goes with respect to Windows, there are more than 100 million users still using 32-bit Windows. So someone is targeting for commercial software development, we would recommend go for 32-bit first, so that you address every developer or user of the program across Windows platforms like Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1 and Windows 10, because there are more than 100 million users still using 32-bit. So this is as per the requirements of the compiler is concerned for C++ programming. We are targeting for GCC because GCC is the cross-platform GNU compiler collection available. It is available both for Windows. This is MinGW for Windows. MinGW stands for minimum GNU for Windows. So even Linux is available, and as well as Mac OS is also available. So C++ also compiles by NDK, native development kit of Android, and also it gets used in Xcode, which can be used to program iPhone, which comes from Apple. So as far as so far we have come across telling the details about basic about C++, how popular it is, how high performance it is, how lower memory footprint it consumes, and MinGW for Windows especially, and the IDE, the integrated development environment we are using for this tutorial series is CodeBlocks. So please download a CodeBlocks 17.12 version with MinGW for software development, because it's very much useful. So what you can do is when you download especially for Windows which you are targeting now, we'll get a zip file or .xz file or gc file. So you unzip it or install it, you'll have a MinGW folder available. So in the MinGW folder available, you have the GCC, which is used to compile C and C++. This tutorial is only for C++ and object-oriented programming for beginners. So what the user can do, you can actually delete all the directories in the MinGW folder, and then replace the MinGW what you downloaded from SourceForge, so that you directly get configured. So let's talk about the configuration of the compiler for CodeBlocks. So you come to menu called settings and come to option called compiler and come to toolchain executables. So this is the directory where actually the MinGW should be provided, wherever the MinGW is. Either you overwrite all the contents of the CodeBlocks MinGW, or you can come and edit the path where the MinGW compiler is available, and edit accordingly whatever the file name for C++ compiler and linker and make program is. So we just edited the make file, we just copy paste mingw hyphen underscore is there for make.exe. Just copy paste and make it as make.exe, because code blocks will complain if make.exe is not available generally for compilation. So please edit the G++ compiler and make.exe and GCC also as per requirement. So this is how to set up the GCC compiler for using MinGW on Windows for code blocks. So for Linux and Mac OS, you can have the MinGW as standard C++ compiler, which comes with a direct installation. So you come and just edit the path in the compiler settings and change the file names accordingly, whatever is available, including the linker air.exe. So this is about how to configure GCC for code blocks. So now the installation is ready. Now the compiler configuration ready. So let's check whether everything goes fine. So let's create a dummy project, new. So come to file, new, and project. So we go for console application, because we are just generating the executable. Go for it and go for next. So select C++. So we can select the path wherever your project has to be located, the path, and just create the project title, and this is just to test whether everything is working fine. So go for next and enable both release and debug. So what is debug? Because debug will have the debugging features embedded into the executable that finally gets compiled by this GCC compiler using code blocks, so that when it runs, it will output some statements so that the programmer can understand what's wrong with the program that is currently running. So release configuration will not have all those debugging features. So we enable both so that we can go for a debug or release depending upon our need. If you and then go for finish finally. So as you can see on the left hand side, it creates a project called test1, and it has one standard file which is main.cpp. So this is the standard function available. So as you can, people might be aware that the hash include is the keyword that needs to be used to invoke the standard header. So we are using right now only the standard library available in the compiler, which is IOStream. I for input, O for output, streaming is for streaming data in and out, typically text format, and cout is the function but that can be used to output a string. This program will output a string called hello world. This main is the main function that actually first runs by the executable, and it has a data type that is returned, which is int, which is done by the return statement called return 0. This is very much useful for process level requirement, because if you return any value other than 0, so the process while debugging or checking the functionality of an executable, if you get return other than 0, so from the return number the programmer can see in a table what's wrong with their program. So but for standard applications, we just retain return 0 and int main, so that it returns integer, which is 0. If you have any command line requirements of the program, you can go for int argc, that's how many arguments count, which is integer, and cat star argv, which is the entire command line string. So control S is for saving the file, or else you can just save all here, save everything, or save file. So now the program is ready. So let's go one step ahead and for compiling features. So you come to these three buttons in the toolbar, which has the build, meaning just it compiles. So if you have a complex project running lot of files, you can just go for build and see any compile time errors are there, something like syntax, something which is some function which is name is slightly different, meaning it's not available in the actual program, or arguments are not proper, the data types of the arguments that is supplied to the function is not proper. So some variables are used without initialization, because C++ is very strict. It's a data declarative programming language, and the before the variable has to be used, the variable has to be initialized. So a lot of errors, typing errors will be detected using at the compile time. So this build actually is the compile step, and when everything compiles properly, then you can go for run. So when you're fully confirmed with the project files, both is syntax and semantics of C++ programming language, and as per programming requirements, you can directly go for compile and run. So build and run. So it will compile. As you can see here, G++ as using the we have enabled the C++ 14 standard, and it has compiled and produces executable. The executable will be exactly the same name as the project. Right now the project is test1, so we will have an executable called test1.exe in the actual compile folder which was used to create the project. So once the program runs, we can actually see the string called hello world, which has been displayed in the command prompt. So this is exactly the what the cout function does in C++ programming language. So whoever comes to this step, it actually means that they have properly installed and configured a GCC compiler for code blocks. So let's we'll end this first um, video tutorial on C++ programming language. This tutorial series for object-oriented programming in C++. So please stay tuned for the subsequent tutorial videos coming in this series. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining. Thanks a lot. Bye.